Making over $100,000 a month comes much quicker and much easier than you think when you start to think about things from a business perspective. And here's the thing, like, prior to making this type of money, you're very small-minded, right? Prior to unlocking the ability to achieve these sorts of things, you're very small-minded. And the reason why is because these things are taught to us in a way where it seems very unachievable and unattainable. But until you start to realize how easy it actually is, and what that type of money and generating that type of revenue actually means, you'll start to understand that it's not actually that much money. Now, the reason why is we're brought up in a way where people only make that over a year, right? And let's say a couple $1 million, people don't even make that in a lifetime. Now, the reason why is because the average person is average for a reason. When we talk about averages, you have to think about it from the perspective of, all right, well, we take rich people and we take poor people, and then what is in the middle, right? And you find the median of essentially rich and poor, and that gives you an average. Now, the average person is taught to get up, go to school, and essentially be average, right? We train our minds from the time that we're born and we start going to school as an elementary student to be average. And in order for you to break that cycle, in order for you to take yourself out of a position where you're on pace and on track to be average, you have to essentially put yourself in a position where, oh God, phone call. Now, the reason why I want to touch base on this, my bad, y'all, phone call came in. The reason why I want to touch base on this is because there's a lot of different perspectives to look at this from. Now, there's different business models and different things that you guys could obviously do to reach that type of financial stability. Now, for me personally, I think you have to understand going through different things in phases. Now, for me, the initial phase was dropshipping, Shopify dropshipping, and e-commerce. That was the initial phase that I used to obviously break myself out of the cycle of being average. That's what I used to essentially unlock the brain capacity and my ability to believe and achieve that I could generate more than $100,000 a month. I've done about 200 or maybe 250 in a month with dropshipping. Now, obviously, margins there are a little bit different, and the type of revenue, my bad, yeah, I got my hair done and it hurts. The type of revenue that you can generate from that obviously is relatively exponential. And yes, running an e-commerce brand, you can make a shit ton of money. Now, the thing is, for me, and to find financial stability and to build something with longevity, it has to be much larger than that. My big thing, as I started to get bigger and bigger in the Shopify space, and I started to understand the process that it really took to go from A to Z, and I started to understand that these are essentially things that can be monetized. Now, my goal currently is to build up a portfolio of e-commerce businesses that could then later be exited for a 10 to 25x multiple. How am I doing that? I am doing that through the agency space. That is the thing that honestly makes the most sense to me. And anybody that does have any sort of skill set in marketing or whatever it is, I do think should potentially enter the agency space. And the reason being is the financial stability and longevity with doing this, granted that you have the skill set to actually be able to offer and fulfill on certain services, have much higher potential than just running, one or two e-com brands. Personally, that's just my thought, and that's just kind of what aligns with, I guess, the vision that I have. Now, obviously, I do know people that are big killers in the e-com game. Shout out Dwidge, and he's taking a much different angle that I'm taking. And at the end of the day, it's a matter of where you guys find yourselves being able to build stability, longevity, and scale, and what type of different stresses you guys are willing to deal with, right? So that being said, I want you guys to understand the type of work that goes behind generating these sorts of results. Understand the type of work that you guys essentially have to invest into it, and understand the type of strategy that goes into this stuff. You don't just go on to make $100,000 a month or $200,000 a month without having any sort of strategy, any sort of sales funnel. Yo, it is incredibly hot out, but there's a couple things that I want to touch base on that I found on ChatGPT that are just questions that I feel like anybody that is in the position I used to be in, getting started in the agency space, getting started in e-commerce, getting started in business in general, would probably ask. So I think, let's see, winning your first win / first 10K month. How did you get your first client? What outreach methods worked for you? And then what mindset shift helped you finally get traction? So as far as gaining my first client, it was interesting, because an opportunity was placed upon my lap, and this was an opportunity to essentially develop websites at scale. So we essentially had a team of, I want to say about 3, 4, maybe 5 different people that were building out Shopify stores. Yo, my head is killing me. And we were essentially building these out for a done-for-you agency that was looking to have Shopify stores to build out. So that essentially put us in a position where we're here building about 30 to 40 different sites a month. And at this point, I was able to create a system to generate a decent amount of income. And solely off this, I was able to kind of put together enough money to kind of support myself. But over time, obviously, if you're just relying on one person to essentially send you a large majority of their business, there's no longevity in that for you, because your business and your ability to operate and generate revenue is contingent upon that company staying in business, right? So as anything kind of goes, there's cycles and different things. These people, I could kind of tell they were going to go out of business at some point because they did not understand the business in which they were operating. They were not fulfillment people, hence why they essentially had us hired to build out these websites. They were literally just sitting there selling these services over time and stacking up money. And we could see that these people were just blowing a bag. They were literally just blowing every dollar they had. Like, this guy made 100,000, blew it on a fucking M5 and was posting it all over Instagram. And the thing is, I knew that it didn't really make sense for him to do that, because a large majority of the people that he had on board were not doing well. And I saw it. So anyways, point being is, after that, it put me in a situation where I essentially had to start off from scratch on my own, right? Now, starting off from scratch on my own, I'm thinking about it, cool. If I do not want to invest any money out of pocket for this, I did not know how to structure an offer, put together an offer, or anything of that sort in the higher ticket space. We were trying to sell a $2,500 offer, if not maybe up to $5,000 offer. And I'm sitting there putting together an email outreach system to acquire influencers. Funny enough, I had no doubt in my mind that this was gonna work, and it kind of just worked. Like, it is weird. I don't know how to describe it. Like, if you guys kind of have an itch or an instinct to do something, kind of just roll with it. Roll with it. Like, when I did this, there was no doubt in my mind that it was gonna work. It wasn't about being able to sell it. It was being able to actually fulfill the service that I was like thinking about. And we were able to fulfill the service, but it was difficult because from the influencer standpoint, these people didn't understand how to sell stuff to, I guess, their following. Now, another question on here: scaling strategy, team, setters, closes, fulfillment, VAs, etc., etc. And then we're gonna get into revenue breakdown. So as far as scaling out your offer, right? You could break this down in different cycles. If you are just starting out and you have a salesperson or don't have a salesperson, here's the thing. I think you guys should learn to sell your offer before hiring somebody to sell your offer, because if you don't know how your offer is sold, there is no way that you're gonna be able to go out and train a sales team to actually sell your offer. So put yourself in a position first where you understand how your offer is sold. Put yourself on those sales calls. Understand what kind of feedback you're getting. Understand if you're talking to the right people, and understand what type of angle you have to take in order to sell your offer. From there, you're good to go ahead and bring on some team members, bring on some closers, and bring on some people to actually help you and support you running this business. As you scale up and you essentially want to diversify a little bit more and create something much larger, well, now you have to start hiring dedicated team members. You're gonna need a CSM at scale for fulfillment. You're gonna need more people on the back end for customer support. You're gonna need more people on the sales team. You're gonna need to increase your volume on ads. You're gonna have to start to bring on these team members for all these sections. So you have to be able to scale up within reason. So the first thing that I would do is CSM and a closer, right? Because once you can start to somewhat automate your sales process and have people on the phone and actually close deals for you, and then once you can have people essentially sort out the fulfillment stuff on the back end for you, this puts you in a position where you have a little bit more of an overview and you have a little bit more insight on which direction to go to. Market more, focus more on the back end, market more, focus more on the back end. Where do I need to be able to support my team? All right, split half my day up with the sales stuff, split half my day up with the fulfillment stuff. You start to understand which perspective you have to go in from. And now you start to understand what issues you're gonna be running into, how to actually solve these problems. And based upon you knowing that, you can start to make calculated decisions and mitigate your risk in that way. Now, another question that we have on here in terms of the revenue breakdown. So a couple different things, right? Now, I've spoken about this before, and I think I do want to touch base on this a little bit. Bro, this is killing me. I do want to touch base a little bit more on this in a future video, and also break down to you guys how you guys can put this in place. But most agency owners don't understand that when they go out and offer a service, if your service is a build and release service, it's completely fine for you to essentially have one price paid and it's over. But if you have a service that essentially has to be constantly fulfilled, and it's also going to be ongoing, you need to make sure that you figure out how to compensate off of having these people on board. Because yes, somebody can pay you to build something out, but they're not paying you to maintain the service that you put together. So you have to figure out how to generate some sort of recurring revenue. And I told myself this, as I saw so many different agency owners go out of business, I told myself I am willing to lose business and lose a deal over making sure that I collect some sort of recurring revenue. Because if I get on the phone with you, and as a client, put yourself in the client's shoes for a second. You might hear an offer and you might be like, damn, this offer's like bullshit. I have to pay this person 10 grand and also pay him $500 a month or $1,000 a month. But you have to understand, and this is also the perspective that you have to look at it from when you sell this. You have to be able to look at these people and tell them, well, look, if you're gonna pay me to perform the service and I'm essentially gonna allocate those funds to perform the service for you, how am I gonna be able to maintain or stay afloat while still performing the service for you ongoing? You have to, those funds have to come from somewhere. And if you're essentially making use of the service that I'm offering you and you see an ROI on that, then you should essentially have the funds to be able to reinvest into me constantly maintaining the service. So that is something I do want to touch base on in a future video. So I will keep you guys updated on that. We will talk about this again. And the video has been going on for I don't know how long now. So this is probably the end of the video. Link to the free Discord is in the description down below for like-minded individuals. Those of you that want to network, those of you that are scaling up your agencies, having a hard time, whatever it is, hit me in the chat. We're always there, always active. So yeah, just hit me. And then aside from that, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe, guys, and I'll catch you all in the next video.